Welcome. You are listening to the Daily Market Wisdom with Nick Santiago. The date is April 9th, 2020, and this is show number 9. Nick, we're back again. Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong, you closed out your GDX position and you had a nice little profit there.
Yeah, I just closed that position out just a few minutes ago, in fact. And the second, I always do I always do a position, and I take half off the table. Then the second half, first half, I took off the table right on April 2nd, and I entered this on the 31st of March, and then I just closed out the second half position today for over 18.5%. That's pretty good in just about 7 trading days.
7 trading days. Some people would be happy making 18% for the year in this market, Nick.
Yeah, well, not me, but I understand that. I understand that theory. When you get no interest on your savings account, you get nothing in a CD anymore, you get nothing anywhere, really. This is really the only game in town.
It's like that song by the late, great Billy Preston, Nothing for Nothing, right?
That's right. That's
Nothing for
right. Nothing for
nothing
nothing.
gets nothing. And hey, so we're looking at the markets here. I just want to make a comment. There's that old saying that war is far too important to be left to the generals. I think we can update that and say that pandemics are far too scary and earth shattering to be left to the doctors.
I'm going to agree with that one, and I don't know how much further we'll take it from there, but
Yeah,
yes.
but here we are. And look, you've been optimistic from the get-go. And before we get into particular specific news items, of which there's a lot, uh, you've been you've been on the up about the economy and the market from the depths of the pandemic. So, is it just being a contrarian, a chart reader, or both? Where did your optimism come from?
Well, I use a lot of techniques as a trader. I've been doing this for a long, long time. I've been involved since the early '90s. So, I've got some experience under my belt, but I never ever stop learning. And one thing I've learned just using charts and using the mathematics behind a lot of what a real technician does is that when there's maximum fear out in the marketplace, you have to be able to change your attitude and step in. And that's what I've done. Now there'll be another time where ultimately in January and February I was not bullish the market. I was bearish, right?
I
So
know.
everybody was on the bull wagon there, and I was not. So as a trader, you definitely want to be a contrarian. I always tell a lot of my members at In the Money Stocks, Bullseye members, I always tell them when everybody's on one side of the boat, you better get to the other side of the boat because that boat is about to tip over, and you want to you want to be the guy with the life jacket. So that's the way I look at it, and it served me well, and my brain is just wired that way now. I've become completely opposite thinking of the herd mentality. So again, everybody gets corralled in by the news. That's why I tell people don't even watch the news. It's negative anyway. So you
Yeah,
can just skip it altogether. It only, if you watch the nightly news, the first three things they talk about are probably a murder, a crime, and
and Trump
some other negative topic. So
and Trump's
they're
the
banging you with
Antichrist.
three negative topics right off the bat.
Yes.
So it's not healthy.
Yeah. No, no, I could not agree with you more. It's really messed up and really you know, yeah, you can't get if you buy into the negativity in the news, you're going to go down the tubes because there'll never be a reason to act. Everything is going to go down, and then where are you left, right?
Absolutely, and I feel that's the number one reason why we don't have more entrepreneurs in this country.
Hmm.
I've told my wife this. I've said this for many, many years. I said, our lives got a lot better the day we stopped watching the nightly news.
Yeah, yeah, oh, for sure. And I found the same thing. I seldom, if ever, watch news on TV. I watch a couple of news shows, commentators. 'Cause it's just for entertainment purposes. I'm not going there to get informed because when you watch news on television, you wind up your emotions take over. All
You
your
really do.
rational,
And you start to vibrate to that negative energy. And sure enough, we have a negative society.
yeah, yeah. So it's real important that you not get wrapped up in the negativity, because if you did, look how many opportunities you would have lost just from 9/11 to now. Actually, before that, 1987. I mean, you can just look each each time the news media went nuts. Really was an opportunity to get invested and make huge returns. And
Absolutely.
08, 09 was a perfect example. I mean, I know personal friends that got super wealthy. So, getting down to the news, the major events, Federal Reserve, what are they doing here?
So, to everyone's surprise, and not really mine, to be honest, but it looks like they took additional steps and they're going to provide up to $2.3 trillion dollars in loans to support the economy.
Hmm.
Now, nobody saw this coming, but the charts were telling us the markets were going to go higher. And, obviously today we're up another 500 points. The Russell 2000, which represents small cap businesses in the United States, that's actually up 4.6% today. So that is having a huge, huge pop today on the back of this Fed news. Now, it looks like, from what I understand, the funding will assist households and employers of all size companies and bolster the ability of the state and local governments, from what it says in its headline, to deliver critical services during the coronavirus pandemic.
Hmm.
And basically, they're out there providing liquidity. I mean, and that's
Yeah.
really it. And it's unprecedented. And why do people want to fight that is just beyond me. As a trader, I always say I don't care if the Dow goes to 100,000 or if it goes to 100. I don't care. I want to be on the right side of that move,
Of the
and
trade.
that's all I care about.
Yes. So it's bailouts for everyone. The SBA, the federal government has already demonstrated that they passed the law really quick, but actually getting the money into your hands and mine, they've been totally inept at doing. Uh, some banks are taking applications, others still aren't. And nobody, to my knowledge, has gotten any money. Even unemployment insurance, they said you're going to get another 600 a week, even for independent contractors and business owners, which they've never provided before. They still can't. The states cannot figure out how to get people the money. So I guess the one thing the Federal Reserve knows how to do is print up money and get it to the people, right? To the right people.
That's right, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So, for
Yeah.
market purposes, that's really all it comes down to. And and everybody is trying to fight the Fed. The old saying is, "Don't fight the Fed." There's a time when you can, but there's a time when you shouldn't. And they've been pretty vocal that this is not a shocker. And the charts were telling us,
Yeah.
they were telling me at least, this isn't, expect more upside, more. And the only way you get upside is more liquidity because
Yes.
businesses shut down.
Yeah.
So that's what this is all about.
Yeah, it's liquidity driven. Hey, and that's having an effect on precious metals too. As we speak right now, and like I said, it's April 9th. We're talking at roughly 10:30 in the morning Eastern time. Gold up 29.40 the ounce on spot. It's probably up
Well,
higher.
it's up 47 now.
Right. It's up 47 now on the
17.30 an ounce.
on the June. Is that the June?
Yes.
The June
Yes.
future. And more importantly, we talked about that the other day. I think it went up to 1742, if memory serves me correct, or somewhere
That's
around
correct.
there.
Yep.
And that was a 7.5 year high for gold on the futures. And futures implies that the actual physical metal is going to catch up with it, right?
That's right. And today I did close out my GDX position, which is gold miners, just simply for the fact that we're into a resistance zone. And I'll do it again. I'll buy it back on a pullback. And ultimately, the next target probably takes me to 33. But this is a trade that I've done in bullseye trading now for the members twice here in just over a month's time. And the last time I took 14.38%. That was a 1-day hold. And this time it was a 7-day hold. And, we took over 18.5% on the second half position, total of over 11% total.
And I remember we talked on like March 10th or 11th, and you said, I'm buying the GDX when it hits 19. And then it went below that intraday, it went below. And we saw, and then you said it's going to 29. Right now it's at 28 and change, 28.20, give or take.
Yep,
And
that's it.
this thing unfolded exactly the way you anticipated. So the question I have, is not being a trader, is how come you didn't just hold it from 19 and ride it up to 28?
Well, because you always get pullbacks, and you got to remember when I bought back into the GDX, it had already made a move up to almost $27, and then when I got back in, it was 23. So again, as a trader, we want to buy those pullbacks when we know they're going to go higher. We don't always want to just sit through there, and if something goes wrong, we like to lock in gains, and then we wait for the market to set up again. And it usually does that with a lower price, not a new low, but a higher low, and then we jump back in again. And that's exactly what I did with the GDX.
Right. Okay. So that's
So,
totally logical.
other words, you could sit in it and try to ride it out, and that's fine. But if something goes wrong on that chart, you could get stopped out. You could lose what you've already gained. So why take that chance? I lock in those gains. I wait for it to come back down again to my retrace level or to a pattern that I desire, and I see that will send the market higher, and that's where I reload and enter again. I've done this on numerous occasions. In fact, I did it with housing stocks, shorting housing stocks in 2005, and I remember stock perfectly was Lennar and was going down about $20. I actually was able to make $35 out of it. So,
really,
by using this method.
Amazing. So, hey, getting on to the news of the day, the Senate is going to vote on $250 billion in additional funding for small business this afternoon, but not sure if they're going to get the 60 votes needed to pass. However,
looks like that vote just took place and they failed. So, as expected, you had to get, I believe, unanimous consent. And it did not get through. So that was kind of expected, but yeah, the vote just happened, I guess, at around 10:30, and it looks like it failed.
Yeah, well, they'll come back with more money. They'll make deals because nobody wants to come out looking like an enemy of small business in the current environment when every small business virtually in the country is shut down. They have to look like they're on the side of, the average American.
Of the little guy, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You got to look like you're on the side of the little guy. And in all fairness, Congress has already come out and said they want 500. I think they want a $500 billion second stimulus bill passed. So, and they're not going to approve it unless they get exactly what they want, they said, according to Nancy Pelosi. But again, politicking at its finest, when there's a so-called pandemic going on.
Yeah, well, like I said, you can always count on politicians to do the wrong thing, and it's very clear here that that probably the metals prices are reacting to this, and the chart that you've been seeing is in anticipation of exactly what the Fed's doing and what the Congress is doing. So, like you say, after today's Fed move, do we even need it? Well, how is the Fed going to just give away helicopter money? What will be the mechanism for it? If you've got an opinion out there, we'd love to hear from you. Email kl@kerrylutz.com, kl@kerrylutz.com. So you said the chatter right now is Trump admin is considering a May 1st date to reopen the economy. I think it's going to be faster than that in numerous parts. There are 9 states, Nick, that have not shut down, like Arkansas and various other states. Maybe the blue states will reopen later, and this isn't a political thing. It's just the red states are much more business-friendly and business-oriented.
Yeah, totally.
And we see on the New York Times map, even though cases are going up and deaths are going up, the rate of doubling hotspots, when you look at just go to coronavirus New York Times map, and I've been following this from the get-go. They weren't updating this chart daily, Nick, but now they are. They update every other chart, every other analytic daily, but not that short. And what you see is originally the hot spots were bright
Why am I
orange.
not surprised?
Yeah, right. The hot spots were bright orange, and now everything is fading. And along with their hopes of getting rid of Trump or whatever they were out to do as a result of this. And if you remember, King County, that's Seattle, was the first really major breakout in the country, Washington State. The cases now are doubling every 12 and a half days, and this data is a day old. They could very well have almost stopped. And you just look at this map from a week ago where everything was bright orange, and now there are some like bright orange little isolated spots, but basically where I am in Palm Beach County, uh, in Palm Beach County, we're looking at a doubling rate of uh, 7.5 days. In Broward County, it's 8.5. In Miami, it's 6. And all of these were way, way higher than that. I mean, lower in terms of they were doubling every 2.5, 3 days. We look at the county that you're in Florida, and we see similar numbers there. So that if I was a trader in coronavirus futures, I would be selling them short right now because this thing is fading. And I kind of suspected all along. You're at 8.5 days, but my friend whose wife is a doctor, works in the ER at a hospital. It's been shut down to all patients except coronavirus patients. As of a couple of days ago, they were getting 20 patients a day. Now I'm sure they're getting like even less. And that's 8 doctors on call to address these people. So,
Yeah.
so
Well, I've seen similar reports and numbers out there as well, and again, I don't want to make light of
no,
of the the pandemic. I definitely there were people that were ill. I know
yeah,
a few people that got severely ill, but
same here.
In the past when I've gotten the flu, I've gotten severely ill as well. I mean, so
Hmm.
we really don't talk much about the flu at all. And I think the flu numbers are still going to be much worse than the
Yeah,
coronavirus
of
numbers.
course they are. And what you might not be aware of, uh, the deaths are totaled almost at 15,000 now, but they have the CDC, this doctor in Kansas, blew the whistle on them. They said, when in doubt, say it's COVID-19, because most deaths, other than those that occur in hospitals, which is approximately 60%, and and those that autopsies are performed, which is a relatively small percentage. Otherwise, the doctor looks at it and gives an educated guess about what caused it, unless if you got shot through the heart, then it's obvious gunshot wound. But otherwise, it could have been flu, it could have been pneumonia, and they have to consider the factors and give it their best guess. So therefore, the whole art of death certificates is completely opinion, mostly opinion, and the CDC wanted the doctors to be of the opinion that COVID-19 is causing it. So the actual number due to the virus could be far lower. Yes, daily deaths are up in New York for sure, and in a few other states. But for the most part, uh, everything is kind of normal. And we might even see, Nick, a lowering of the influenza rates because of people improving your hygiene, you know, washing your hands constantly. So
Right,
a
right.
lot of factors involved here. We don't even know, but yeah, we'll see the flu deaths. A lot of other deaths aren't happening, so it's a weird thing. And yeah, not to downplay the severity of this because it was, genuine problem, but was it worth shutting down the world? Shutting down the world global economic system and putting it under further pressure in the U.S.? We'll be debating that for years to come, but the numbers tell the story.
Yes,
So,
they do. And just to share with your listeners, the 0 year of a decade is, and this year in particular, is a panic year. And I think we've seen the panic, and now hopefully everybody will start to rebuild again. Hey, Kerry, if I could just interject one
yeah,
real
sure.
quick. Remember the other day we were talking about, I was telling you that oil looks like, I think even though
Hmm.
oil was selling off again, I said the Saudis and the Russians are going to come to a deal. And sure enough, it just came across my news wire as we speak that Saudi Arabia and Russia have reached a deal, and they're going to cut by 20 million barrels a day. So there you go. That was writing on the wall, kind of. So,
Yeah. So how do we play this, or is it too
well,
late?
I mean, I think oil now is probably steadily going to move higher. It's already made a little bit of a move now, but it's steadily going to move higher going forward. And I think they were pressured into it because President Trump basically said, if you don't do it, what we're going to do is just put tariffs on oil. So
Yeah.
he really, called their bluff. And
Hmm.
once again, they folded.
Yeah.
And you can see right here, it just came across my wire, 20 million barrels a day will be cut between Saudi Arabia and Russia.
All right. So let's look at our oil prices. How did they move on the news of this?
Well, they're up $2 right now, which is about 8%. But they actually
Mhm.
started to move yesterday, and that was the tell that there would be a deal. You also had OPEC Plus. The OPEC Plus meeting is going on today.
Right.
I guess they're doing it via Skype or some other type
Yeah.
of electronic system. But it looks like they have reached a deal. Now, oil at 27, I could see it going back to the low 30s, maybe
Yeah.
even up to 35.
Interesting. So it could be a play, and you'll let us know when it looks like it's time to buy, right?
Yeah, what I would do now with oil is you just let this news settle in, and then you just wait on pattern, and I'll
Hmm.
I'll alert you guys when I do it.
All right. Cool. So oil looks like the next trade. Yeah, it's up $2 to $27 a barrel. Still generational lows on the price of oil. The last time we saw this was 08, 09. I think it went down to 30 something at that time.
Yeah, and in '09, when we had spot really collapse, from $148. I just want to share this with your listeners. Um, Guess who upgraded it on the 2 days before it peaked?
Anyone we know here?
Goldman Sachs.
Is
So
that right?
Goldman Sachs upgraded it to $250 a barrel when it was already at 145. It peaked at 147 and collapsed all the way down to a low of $33 in January of 2009.
Wow. Yeah.
So talk about you know suckering people in, and I probably have made more trades in my life on those guys on Goldman's upgrades and downgrades. They have uh, an unbelievable way of always calling the tops, but they'll be buyers up there, so they say.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And that's kind of typical, and that's going against the pack for sure. Goldman Sachs, who knows what their real agenda is? I got to believe they can't be this screwed up, right? Um,
Well,
they can't be this messed
intentionally,
up.
maybe intentionally.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So, hey, anyways, go over to Nick's site, inthemoneystocks.com. You'll see his trading record. You'll see what he's thinking. There's tons of free training materials there that can really help give you the edge in the market. If ever there's a time where you need to be a trader, this is it now. Any questions or comments, email me, kl@kerrylutz.com, kl@kerrylutz.com. Nick, we'll talk to you Monday.
Thank you, Kerry.